All right, good morning, ladies and gentlemen. We are experiencing a few glitches in our live stream. And so, but I want to welcome you to the Wednesday, March 1st, 2023, 9 a.m. Board of Commissioners meeting. On my right is newly appointed Commissioner Jay Trost, Brad Alcorn, County Council Ted Fitzgerald, and we welcome you. Thank you are here. I'm going to call this meeting to order. I'm going to say a quick prayer, and if I'm going to invite you to stay. If you don't want to stay, you don't have to. I'm just going to say a quick prayer.
Actually, I think that with regard to, you've got your commissioners here, I think that should be a decision that the commissioners talk about. So perhaps we could move that to an agenda item, but I think it's inappropriate to be bringing everybody else in with a unilateral decision on your part.
Okay. Well, we've been doing it, and
No, we haven't been doing it.
we've done it for 2 years, Ted, ever since I've been the chair. And so I don't mind talking about it, but I mean, we had some,
We definitely talk about it.
yeah, we had some pushback, and we got attorneys to look at it and say, yes, that you can do it. So
Got some attorneys to look at it and say, no, you can't do it too. So that's the point.
I thought you were on board. I apologize.
No, I had not provided an opinion on that, and really, it's a scenario where the elected officials should discuss, because it does present, it creates, potential frictions for people that may be in the audience. There are certainly ways that you can go forward. For example, what happened at the last meeting without my knowledge or consent, you brought in a guest pastor.
Yep.
That would have been, if that would something that the board had worked on together, that'd be a defensible position. But I really think that everybody here needs to understand. The commissioners cannot act unilaterally. They should not act unilaterally.
Yeah.
They should work. That's why that kind of decision should be talked about. That's my point. Whether it's legal or not.
Neither one of my fellow commissioners had said anything to me, so I was just,
Well, actually, he wasn't a commissioner when that happened.
No, but Brad, yeah. So anyway, we will discuss it and move forward. So sorry if I offended anybody. So let's stand and we'll do the Pledge of Allegiance. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America, to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. All right, Commissioners, amendments / approval of the agenda.
Right. Look at my notes here.
Okay.
So, on the consent agenda, 5G,
First draw documents, yep.
yep. Can we just move that to discussion? Because I just want to get some clarification on it.
Sure.
I didn't have a chance to talk to Summer, and I didn't have a chance to talk to council about it
Okay.
either. There's some things that I didn't understand, and I'd just like to be more clear.
Sure.
That's all.
Jay, you don't have a problem with that? So 5G will be moved to 6KL? 6L?
And then
5G.
And then 6, what is it? 6F. Can we move that up? Because I see Tyson's here.
Tyson and Sam both, yeah?
Yeah, and Tyson wanted to comment on that, and if we can move it up in the agenda so he can get out of here. I hate to keep the fire
Right.
chief here.
Well, and kind of that same thing works for though, A is Wendy Lang with Juvenile and Parks, and B is Wendy Lang. You want to do it at C? Because we kind of like to move, keep.
Yeah, that's fine.
Do it at C?
Yeah, just move it up a little bit so he doesn't
F
have.
to C?
Yeah, so he doesn't have to wait too long.
Okay. And then we do have 3 public hearings, and I'll, at 10, 10, 15, and 11, so I'll ask you guys to keep me on track there if we get, you know, those times come and go and I miss them, so. Jade, you got any additions, corrections?
Nope.
Let me see. So did we, there was, this is an updated agenda, so there was, budget committee, but did we pull that?
Oh, yeah.
Yeah.
I would like to, I would like to pull that too.
My budget committee, 6C, yeah.
Yeah, I would like to pull that because I know we got a couple applications. I haven't had a chance to look at
Okay.
them yesterday.
One came in late,
One came in late.
so
And
Ted, that, you
Yeah,
can,
that's fine.
is that
Let's- I
okay to
think we
move that to the 15th?
Yeah, let's
Okay,
move that.
we
to the
got plenty of time. Okay, so let's strike C. That gives, are you okay with that, Jay? Okay. Okay, anything else? If not, I'll entertain a motion to approve the agenda as amended.
I'll move to approve the agenda as amended.
All right, got a motion? Do I have a second?
second.
Okay, got a motion and a second. Any further discussion? Hearing none, all in favor say yes.
Yes.
Motion carries 3-0. All right, ladies and gentlemen, this is where your time is. Mary Rowe is first for public comments. You get 3 minutes. JJ keeps track, and the floor falls out if you go past 3 minutes and you end up in the basement, so,
This is
Don't
why I'm
want that.
using a cane.
yeah. Is that something to pass around for everybody? Yeah, I'll be. Okay.
I'm Mary Rowe. I'm here to speak about the procedures for administering ARP funds, which are on today's agenda under 6E. Before a new procedure is created, unfinished processes need to be completed and/or addressed. I would hope that you would apologize to the citizens who served on the ARP committee for having their time wasted by the prior BOC. Also, I just gave you applications from the organizations that had applied and were not given definite responses of yes or no. That was unethical. They still deserve to have their proposals evaluated and to have a chance to submit any newly required supplemental information based upon the evaluations of each of you after each of you have read the ARP guidelines. I was told that these initial applications were nowhere to be found. George Rhodes was kind enough to give you the copies that I just passed on to you. The truth is that the former BOC, through the initial applications to the Wolves, when the updated ARP guidelines stated that county governments could use ARP funds to reimburse themselves for revenue lost due to the COVID virus pandemic. Our BOC then stopped acting as the stewards that they were tasked to be and began to act as if the ARP funds belonged to the county government. An accounting of TLT funds was not done to determine the amount of lost revenue, and the ARP funds were fraudulently spent on county operations, construction, training, and county projects, including allocating $250,000 to buy the county vehicles. This seizing of money that the county government was entrusted to disperse to the community is the very definition of corruption. Finally, County Counsel Fitzgerald convinced the BOC to rescind the $250,000 for vehicles. Using ARP funds to balance the budget above the amount of any lost revenue due to the pandemic cannot occur. Also, there was a lack of transparency during this period of corruption regarding comprehensive tallies of spent and allocated ARP funds. Thank you.
Don Kendall's next.
Morning, Commissioners.
Morning.
I don't know whether it's commiserations or congratulations there. Commissioner Trost. I just wanted to put my 2 cents in again about the ARP funds for the Nasika Beach Gopher Water District. Also, if rumors are true, I have brought another copy of the application to give to the board so they could have it. Secondarily, on my request list today is I want to approach the county for an IGA. We're a small district, don't have a lot of equipment, and don't have a lot of people, and sometimes it's nice to have a quick jump group that can come in and give us a hand with the equipment that the county roads department does have to work with us. Now, this is not to do all the time to stop payment to other people that we have contracted with in other times. So it's just for immediate need, emergency need, etc. And we thank you very much.
Bet.
Thank
Thanks,
you.
Don. Mike Murphy is next.
Go to the bench, please.
Sure, of course, yeah.
Listen, I wanted to follow through with the letter that I wrote to the traffic department about this.
Okay, yeah.
Okay, first of all, John Dayton was my neighbor and a friend for many years. John lives on Lower Harbor Road. He was coming out of Cascadero Restaurant about 4:30 or so. His house was 40 feet away from where he had to cross Lower Harbor Road to get to. Now, John was trying to cross the traffic there and unfortunately got hit by a vehicle. It was a fatality. It wasn't a pretty sight. John was about 20 or so feet away from his house. Other than losing a friend, I've done some slight research on the last time the traffic signs on Lower Harbor Road were even investigated. All I can come up with is 1996. There was an investigation on Benham that rolls down into Lower Harbor Road in 2011. There was an accident there, so they brought the state traffic engineer to do an investigation, and found out that on his estimated valuation that speed limit needed to be adjusted there. But Lower Harbor Road hasn't seen any action as far as limits for quite some time. Now, you can only think about 1996 and 2023 and the population growth, and the popularity of Sports Haven Beach, the port itself, the businesses down there. I mean, it's growing, it's booming, traffic's not getting any lighter. Attending the port commissioners meetings back in 2020, December 15th, it's public record that the port manager decided to do his own traffic control. And in 6 months' time, they tagged 216,029 vehicles crossing Lower Harbor Road in 6 months' time. I'm running out of time here, but there's a lot more facts. I would love to talk to you about this. I talked to, what's his name, Richard Christensen, and he was more interested about, well, why don't you give me a call back in a couple of weeks? Give me some time on this. So my concern here is I didn't want the letter that I sent him that you have going from the desk into the trash can. This is why I'm bringing it up to the commissioners. I personally would like to see our like assistance in having an investigator come down from Roseburg or wherever they're stationed and have this engineer readjust those speed limits. So if I'm available, I think Mr. Alcorn has my contact information. I want to be part of this, gentlemen. I really do. I want to be part of that common sense of, hey, listen, there's blind spots. The speed limit's too fast. Yes, this is the business district, okay? So Thank you
Thank
for
you.
your time.
Thank you.
Thank you, Mike.
I'd just like to say that I was the port manager down there for some years, and I was port manager at 2011. And as I recall, ODOT came down and took a look, but that's who we need to get. We need to get focused on this, and it's been a problem to get attention on it because it's a dangerous place. At the best of times, that's a dangerous road.
Was Lower Harbor a county road or a?
It's a county road, but as I recall, it's a county road. But it's one of these things that's jurisdictionally under ODOT's control, as I recall.
Kind of like North Bank where?
Yeah,
okay, I get
so it's a weird, because we couldn't get any traction either, and you can barely, if you're running port stuff down there and you're trying to get out onto the road, I mean it's a risk.
So I spent some time talking with Mike about this, and I have my own personal experiences. I like to go to Catalyst. I like to go to Fat Irish. I go to those places down there, and there is quite a bit of traffic, especially in the summertime. And with the increase in popularity and the increase in activities down there, this might be a good time to make a phone call and see if we can get ODOT down there to take a look at that.
Yeah, gentlemen, just real quick here. The big book, the House Bill 3055, this traffic Bible thing, man, or red tape, green tape, clearly states 4 definitions for the speed limits in the entirety. And the 15 miles an hour speed limit is for narrow roads. A 25 mile an hour speed limit is for business districts. And that was a 20 mile an hour. And a 25 mile an hour speed limit is for any kind of ocean view or ocean road. So this checks all the boxes for some kind of responsibility here from the county.
Because the speed limit right now is posted 30, right?
Speed limit's posted 30. And then you have the exceeded speed limit that should be recorded. Back in 2011, it was 11% of the community exceeded that speed limit. So we're also faced with that down there. And it's a dangerous situation, gentlemen.
Yes. it
Thank
is.
you for hearing.
Well, and just to add to that, my wife and I are getting to that age where we have to start exercising more. So we've been going down to the port and walking, and we actually stay off of there's no sidewalk. There's there's a fog line and a pretty good, but we've actually moved over closer to the fences and into the grass because I remember when I was running too, this happened. People look at you and drive to you instead of
I thought that was just because I was the port manager.
No, I think that's just human nature,
Aiming
or
at ya.
we do have older drivers in the county. But yeah, instead of scooting over to the center line, they come right by you, and it's yeah. So anyway, and luckily in the port there is a way to get down and through the crab pots and get off of that road. But it's not fun sometimes. So we understand your plight, and we will look into it further, sir, for sure.
Yeah, thanks, Mike.
Okay, thank you.
So I'll get I'd entertain a motion to approve the consent agenda as amended.
I'll make a motion to approve the consent agenda as
Okay.
amended.
Got a second?
Second.
Okay, got a motion and a second. Any discussion? Don't see any. All in favor say yes.
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 Motion carries 3-0. So A is Wendy. Discussion action items, replace a juvenile department vehicle, Wendy Lang, Juvenile Parks and Director. Hi, guys.
Good morning, Commissioners.
Welcome.
I just wanted to come before the board. In December, we had lost our vehicle. There was an accident, and thank goodness 2 of our employees were in that accident, and they're healthy and happy and with us today. But the result of that accident, it was the other driver's fault. I'm not going to be able to go forward anymore now. It was his fault. We've been working with county council, and Geico Insurance has paid $20,000. It was the max of the property damage in that accident. So I've also been talking to Frank in finance, and because we're self-insured, there's a self-insurance fund and there was $50,000 in it this year. Right now, there's about $40,000 in it. So I would like to move forward to replace that vehicle that was totaled. It would be taking about $28,000 out of the self-insurance fund. Again, I've been working with county council. I've been working with Frank. I reached out directly to Withnell Dodge, who we previously, when we used to go directly to them to get the state contracts, they do have the original vehicle that had been canceled. It's available to purchase if we would like to purchase it. So I'm not sure of the process anymore. So I just wanted to come before we've been running with one vehicle. The vehicle is not very reliable. It's a Parks vehicle. It's an old vehicle. And we really need to get that.
So the purchase price of the new vehicle is 48.
$48,760.
And that because we have the self-insurance fund, I mean, this is the scenario that we have. We have money in there, and it's our, we took the risk to take that, to make that replacement, subject to other people's insurance, and we can't punish juvenile for getting hit by somebody with inadequate insurance. So I think that's what the fund's there for.
I agree.
Me too. And there's a need for the vehicle right now.
Yes. Huge need. The old truck. Wayne, what year is the old gray truck? Yeah, and it's been to Lobster Creek too many times.
Yeah. And one thing we did do in the negotiations is the totaled truck still has a canopy on it that actually fits the old silver truck. So part of it is we requested to be able to keep the totaled truck, and so anything on there that
Parts,
we can use, we can part it out and use all that.
Okay.
Well, look, some of the doors won't open, so I mean, it took a hard hit.
Yeah.
Our employees are very lucky.
Yeah.
And the airbags worked and everything. It was actually a really great outcome.
Yes, they're lucky they were in a big.
Whenever you can cheat death.
We brought them home that afternoon, evening. It was a miracle. So, Jay, got any question?
Nope.
Okay.
I'll move to
Okay.
approve the replacement of the juvenile department's vehicle at a cost of
$48,760.
$48,760.
And I'll second it.
Okay, got a motion and a second. Any further discussion?
No.
All in favor say yes.
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 Motion carries 3-0. Thank you. Wendy, stay up there. We're at Parks Capital Improvement Budget.
Yeah, so our department has been running parks for just about a year. It'll be a year on April 1st. And I have actually Brandy and Waylon here with me, part of my team. We've been working extremely hard after COVID. The parks hadn't been winterized. There was just a lot of work to do in the last year. So before we spent any committed funds that were already in the parks budget, we wanted to make sure that we really knew what we needed and fix the little stuff we could fix. So I also have met with Frank. There is committed funds in the parks budget that are just for that, for some capital improvements and doing some work on that. Also, we were very lucky. Mr. Trost used to run parks, so in the last week, we've done a lot of chatting and talking. And actually, the email I sent you, the first thing that was on there was expanded sewer program. After meeting with Mr. Trost, Waylon has met with DEQ and has met with Econoservice. We're going to spend the next 6 months actually looking at a grant, type of grant that the county got before. We're going to collect numbers for them. Okay. So we're not going to ask that any committed funds be put on that project right now. We feel the expanded septic and sewer project is vital. Boyce Cope is busy. Mm-hmm. And the one thing we have to make sure is that equipment is up and running or it shuts us down. So I feel like we have a really good plan, but between me turning my request in and that, there's some grants on the table and working with DEQ, Waylon, we want to collect some numbers and know exactly what our need is going to be for that expansion. Okay. Again, when I met with Frank, he said the funds are there, it's your budget. I want to be very transparent with the board on what I want to move forward with. So what we're asking to move forward currently is we need to purchase a tractor. Waylon and I have been using,
You're fine.
okay, we have personal tractors. We've been making sure that things happen by using personal equipment we don't need to do that anymore. It's county property. We have property to develop. We have things to clear. We have water that needs to happen. So we would like to get a tractor. We need some propane heaters also at Lobster Creek. These are heaters that were no longer working, that had 5 pounds of acorns and rat droppings in there. It's just not safe. So we didn't use them this year. We put portable ones in. Again, liability-wise, we need to do it, and we need to do it right, and I believe that's what those funds are for. Wayland has done his homework to try to find out the best thing, and he's been working with Blue Star. The well needs to be blown out, and so it's actually about a year out to do that, but right now there's a screen in our well up at Lobster Creek that doesn't allow the well to fill fast, which means we have staff up there. If the well goes low, we have staff up there that has to sit and wait 8 hours to get the well to fill. It's about a year out, but we really need to sign that paper and get put on the list. So that's the committed funds we're looking to move forward with Lobster Creek. Next year, we'll be kind of looking at cabins, but we have to be able to operate and operate right. So that's what we're looking for in the immediate. With Boyce Cope, we really want to get a golf cart. If you've ever been up there in the summertime, I'm going to tell you, our hosts, we have 47 sites and they're full, and we have people trying to get in. It's an amazing, amazing place, but our hosts never stop during the season. So we want to get them a golf cart to make the rounds, to deliver firewood. A little used golf cart is what we're looking for. We need to get a shed for the park hosts. Right now they have their personal equipment in our shed. We've given them to April 1st to get that out. We just really need to separate host personal stuff and our personal stuff, and to keep it clean. They can't have it spread all over the park. When we first came aboard, Commissioner Herzog had worked with Dyer on a water system review, and what that showed is we needed a UV water upgrade at Boyce Cope. We've been doing tests, doing everything that's required to do, working with Kent at OHA, totally compliant, but we believe now it's time to take that step. It's about a $4,000 system, and Bandon can put that in for us. We also have a wood shed. We had to buy firewood. We sell a lot of firewood at Boyce Cope, but we're buying it and we're selling it. We're not making any money. So what we want to do is we want to use what's down at Lobster Creek and really be smart about our...
You get,
So because it's outdoor, could you use shore pine wood? We have a ton of it at the fairgrounds that I would happily give to you. Please take it from my property.
Yeah, and so there's a lot of down trees, which is kind of just fire starter up at Lobster Creek. And so what we do is we would use that wood, which 20 years ago is exactly how they did it.
Yeah.
Is they use that wood. We have a log splitter. We're not letting Commissioner Herzog quite off the hook, but him and Wayland have a plan to build the shed and a kiosk where people can check in. Park Coast in the wintertime doesn't have to be there all the time. You can pull into your spot, go to the kiosk, drop your money, and you're done. Again, we've been working on all this stuff for a year. I feel very confident about the plan. My team has went really above and beyond in making this presentation. So today we're just asking, the money's there, had a meeting with finance. Really what we're asking is, just permission to move forward and use a section of those committed funds. And it has nothing to do with carryover. We're still looking at doing some more development. We're still meeting with Oregon State Parks on McVeigh Park. We're looking at doing some expansion.
Good.
That's it.
A couple questions, Wendy.
Yeah.
So the expanded sewer project at Boyce Cope, very much needs to happen. Will you still have your capital funds set aside for matching? If you go for that grant, you're going to make sure that those are still committed?
Absolutely.
Okay.
Absolutely.
Your tractor purchase, do we also have a suitable trailer for the tractor you're looking for?
Yes and no. Waylon and I were staffing that. There is some county tractors. We did a trade with Search and Rescue a while ago. We did not take their trade. There's an older trailer there. There is also a trailer up at the park, but we've never used it yet. So,
Okay,
yeah, we realized that would be right.
yeah.
It's in rough shape is why we didn't take it, but at that point we didn't have anything so big our equipment would fit into the utility trailers.
Yeah.
So I do think there's options, and I think last time we looked at that trailer, I mean, it just needs new wood to be safe. So I think there are options.
All right.
To do.
Replacing the propane heaters at Lobster Creek. I'm assuming we're talking about the nurse's cabin?
It would be the 4 heaters, correct, Waylon?
Yes.
Yeah, it's the 4 heaters, the 2 in the nurse's cabin and also the 2 in the staff cabins A and B.
I would, I talked to Waylon a little bit about this yesterday. I would also
Of the leak.
probably add in there to put a new propane line to that, the one that we abandoned a long time ago.
Yes, we put an extra $1,000 in kind of the
Perfect.
offset budget to
Maybe
be
you
able
can
to
use your
do
new
that.
tractor.
Things have really improved since they sent me up there to 6th grade camp.
Well, I
yeah.
can
There was
say,
no heat. There was no propane, let's put it that way.
yeah, I can say that I actually rented Lobster Creek this summer, and it was incredible.
Really nice.
Well, they had, yeah, it looked really good. They had put it. You could tell that there was a lot of work put in, and I know that the Parks Department and Juvenile Department wasn't satisfied at the time, but the work that had been put in was tremendous.
My experience was basically limited exposure to the elements and then a lot of hazing. But other than that, it was a great time.
And
Beautiful park.
on the well, I don't know if you've already explored this, but it's, one way you may be able to speed up that process is, from what I understand, the road department owns a Vector truck, which is exactly the tool that you would want to use to empty that well out and clean that filter. If you're able to coordinate dual use on that, you could probably save a little bit of your capital budget.
That's a great idea.
Well, I think it's a drilled well, though, isn't it? It's pretty. I don't know if that.
But you still got to pump it.
No, it's a
How far
tunnel
does it-
well. It's what, maybe 30 feet deep. Close?
Yeah.
Oh, okay.
Yeah.
Then, yeah, we
Yeah.
probably aren't going to have a hose long enough.
No, that's why I said it. We spent probably 3 or 4 months this
Yeah.
summer trying
Yeah.
everything. Well,
It's a
spring before it opened, and it ended up that was our only resource, and it was about a year out.
Got it.
Um,
Okay. Well, otherwise,
Yeah.
great plan, and it's good to see your future plans as
Yeah.
well in here.
it's and like I said, I mean, the parks are. We put in winter rates, and Boyce Cope is, it went from 11 in, January to like 114. People are staying there. It's revenue generating. Lobster Creek was full last year. You couldn't get a weekend in season. I think we have 3 weekends left. So we're excited because we're getting to the point now where we're not just repairing. It's time to move forward and really do that and get some off-season stuff going as well. But we need to take care of the infrastructure.
Any other questions for Wendy?
No.
Thank you so much. We just I need to entertain a motion to approve the supplement. Is it a supplemental budget?
It's
or-
not. It's in the budget, and according to Frank, I don't even know that I need a motion in
Okay.
order because it's in there.
Okay.
You
But
don't. You don't.
But yeah, we just wanted to kind of be transparent. There's some big expenditures,
Yeah.
and we
I
want
don't-
everybody to
Love
know
it.
what we're
I
doing.
don't think you need a motion, but I think you definitely have the support of all of us.
Yeah.
So,
We'll update as
Perfect.
we go. Thank you
Yeah.
very much.
And I owe a gentleman in the audience, not you guys.
Oh.
I owe a gentleman in the audience an apology. Mr. Is it Spirit? I missed him on the public comment. So, sir, come on up. You got 3 minutes, and my apologies. When you walked out to the restroom, I thought I never read his name, so I don't know if it stuck to another paper, but I'm sorry. And you have 3 minutes of public comment. So
Thank you, Mr.
You
Chair.
bet.
My name is Spirit Meller. I've been in Curry County for about 2 years now, so I'm a newbie relative to many people who have been here a lot longer and invested many more years. My wife and I run 2 businesses here, and we are committed to the relational and economic success of Curry County. This institution we're in right now has a severely degraded level of trust with the public, as far as I can tell. And we now have 2/3 new board composition, which hopefully I'm excited about. I want to say to you that I think job number one for this institution is the rebuilding and the restoration of public trust. I understand we have a major budget problem. That's a big issue, and it should be right near the top, but not above the restoration of public trust. I woke up this morning to an issue which is on the agenda, which I will not comment specifically on, but I want to comment on the fact that it's on the agenda and how it's on the agenda. And I believe it's 7B, and it's about transient lodging tax. And so I don't want to talk about transient lodging tax, but I want to talk about public trust. And this is not labeled in a way where anybody in this county will know that you're talking about reallocating the funds. So I think it's mislabeled, which I think is an erosion of public trust. It should be labeled in a way that the public can understand what's being talked about. And on a topic of such magnitude, such as how we're going to spend public money, there probably should be more notice than, I understand it was 1 day of notice, and that's an erosion of public trust. I want to support you guys. I want to believe in you guys. And we need a board of commissioners that will act above board, communicate clearly, and make decisions that restore and rebuild public trust. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thanks, Barry.
Tyson, you're up next. Liaison, that was F to C, right? Liaison
Yep,
for Rogue
yeah,
Siskiyou Regional Training Center Project. Okay.
Yes. All right. Good day, Commissioners. So what we're talking about today is, by default, Commissioner Boyce had kind of fallen into the position of the unofficial liaison for the training center for quite a few years, just because he kind of started out at the beginning of the project. That led to a few issues when we officially did not have a liaison. We needed information to pass back and forth between the commissioners and the board of directors and the directors at Rogue Siskiyou Regional. So what we're looking at now is if we can appoint, and I've talked to Commissioner Alcorn about it, because of his background and the conversations that we've had about the training center, if he would be willing to do that. And basically I'm here today to see if we can try to make that happen.
So moved. Seconded? Passed. Unless Jay wants to arm wrestle Brad for it, and
No,
that would be
no.
fun to watch, but
It'd be interesting. He's got big hands.
yeah.
I got a lot of heart. No, but I appreciate, Tyson, you're reaching out to create communication. As was mentioned earlier about public trust, communication is one of the greatest tools of erosion, right?
Absolutely.
And I appreciate that you value that and that you're seeking it out to have those lines of communication. And I fully support having Brad as your
Yeah.
liaison.
Yep. I think it's going to be good moving forward. We've had some pretty good conversations. I've expressed some of the concerns I'd had initially with this project, having it associated with the county. Let's just be honest, this room has seen some amazing conversations over the last few years. And not everybody was happy with those, including me, and I'm assuming some of you as well. I do not want this project to be derailed because of politics, because Fire does not care who you voted for in the last election or who you plan on voting for in the next election. It just doesn't make any sense to me. It's not a political issue. So I think just getting ahead of it now, we have a pretty new group here as far as you guys being in the positions you are now. I think it's a good time to try to put a new foot forward and keep the communication going as best we can.
Yep. And that is
agree.
exactly what we're trying to do. And I've had some good conversations with Tyson about that. It's moving forward quickly.
Yes.
And it's going to be amazing. So
Yep.
I support it 100%, and it's going to add tremendous value.
Yeah, I agree.
Ted, I don't think this requires a vote, does it? Just consensus?
We appoint liaison, so
Yep.
so appointed.
You guys have any other questions?
Nope.
No, thank you, Tyson.
Absolutely.
Brad Alcorn. We are going to, it's 9:39. We're going to move forward with 6E, right? Or D? D.
D.
ARP, American Rescue Plan Administrator, David Barnes, County Treasurer.
Morning, David Barnes, County Treasurer. I pretty much said everything I needed to say in the ARS sheet. I got a notice the other day from the United States Treasury that the forms are going to start coming out at the end of this month, and the ARP reporting is due by the end of April. We have sent out money to a dozen or more different entities. In the contracts that we've had signed with those entities, they agreed to provide us with documentation of how they have spent the money that we've given them, and agreed that it would be in compliance with the ARP guidelines. And because there's not been an administrator, as Mary Rowe mentioned before, a lot of things have fallen through the cracks, and we've never asked to get information from the entities that we've given money to. And we're now in a position where that has become imperative and very timely. So I'm asking this board to appoint somebody to be the ARP administrator to go ahead and start collecting that from these outside groups and compiling it and putting it together so that when the time comes, it's accessible to me so that I can do the report for U.S. Treasury.
Questions, comments?
Just 100% agreement. I think this bleeds into the next discussion item about establishing some procedures around this entire topic, and how this would be handled and administrated.
Okay.
Yeah, I agree with you also, Dave.
Okay, thank you. To throw it out there, I haven't discussed it with them, and if they're watching in the back, it's going to come as quite a shock. But Finance Department is in charge of all grant paperwork and grant documentation and pretty much grant administration, and that would be my suggestion of who it would be to be the administrators of this. So
do we want to tie this in with the next topic?
Yeah, I think it does lead in.
yes, it certainly does.
So maybe we can just take that under advisement and then move forward
Yeah,
to the
yeah.
next agenda item.
Thank you.
Very
Thanks,
good.
Dave.
So that takes us to 6E, discuss procedures for county funding requests, ARP and other. Commissioner Alcorn.
So this is something I put on the agenda because of really being frustrated and feeling somewhat sympathetic for the folks that come in here and ask for help and ask for funding through ARP funding, but also there could be future requests, next year for we don't know what's going to happen down the road. There could be more. Who knows?
Yep.
But when groups, organizations, and people come in to ask for funding, it feels like Shark Tank. People walk in, they make their pitch, and there's really it's whoever has the best pitch and the best show, and
Mr. Cuban was sitting up here and was able to share some of his.
And it shouldn't be that way. I went to the food bank. I met with Olivia. I got a great tour down there. I saw the great work they're doing. I went with Don and the water district and took a tour out there. I saw the needs that they have, and they need help. Everybody needs help. So how do we make those decisions? So what I'm proposing in this discussion is that we formalize a mechanism to do that. And it would start, first off, by knowing exactly how much money there is available. And then, secondly, it would start with some date and time parameters, time to apply, and then an ending date, which I would recommend being sometime after the budget so we know exactly where we stand with funding. And then a mechanism to apply, an actual form. I know we had ARP forms that people filled out, that type of thing, but I think we should discuss what should be in that form, which may include some type of financial statement so that we understand where the organization is at funding-wise, what they have on the horizon, what grants are coming in, what grants they didn't get, what their profit loss balances are, so we know what those needs are. And then the other thing is to really discuss now, what are the priorities of the county? Is it housing? Is it public safety? Is it, what is it? And maybe identify, top 3 or top 5, whatever it is, so that as these organizations come in and apply basically for grant funding is what they're doing, we can make best and informed decisions.
As far as that goes, it does tie into the previous item, because I think, from my perspective, as coming in and being a relatively new person here in this county, I see a lot of, I don't see a lot of as much oversight as I would like to see. I would like to know if somebody comes to us and wants to have access to funds for whatever reason. I think that 3 years financials would be a great start. I think that you should have the right to ask for more information, because also all these entities and groups are different. They're different animals. They some are new, some are old, some are we're like the example Brad just used. He talked about the water. We got people with water issues up north. We got people who aren't getting enough to eat down south. And those are literal, real things that it's just that's why I also don't want to downplay the importance of putting on a good show too, because
Sure.
that part of that is actual communication and getting across that how the need is valid. But I think that a more formalized approach, and really we have the right to ask about the entity and so forth. I just think maybe a little bit more detail and the right to go in if there's and I know I irritate people when I look at stuff. I usually have questions, and so I ask questions, and if people get mad when I ask questions, then I don't want to give them any money.
Yeah,
because
there's
that's
something happening.
a bad sign.
Yeah.
So, but I think that's your role is to be, interrogating the people who are looking for money so that you can safeguard it. You guys have a duty of oversight. The money travels through the county, and so these would be essentially subrecipients of those grant monies. And yeah, I think it's a great idea.
But when I look at the finance department as it is right now with 3 people, and one of them is slash HR, that department had 5 people, I think, at one time, and now has 3.
I think changes need to be made. I mean, because of this, we're having trouble dealing with some of our fundamental, duties, just as far as county operations go, and the people in finance are working hard. They're doing the best they can, but I would say it's understaffed.
And then budget time is coming up, and
not going to get easier.
So we're going to say, hey, not only the budget's coming up, but can you be a ARP auditing anyway?
Well,
but then the other line is we are underfunded. Revenues. Yeah. So go ahead.
But I think we're talking about 2 specific different topics, right? Grant administration, grant oversight, ensuring that people are following through the grant parameters and things of that nature. Follow up piece, and administering the actual grant is the after effect of, I think, what Brad is also talking about, which is the process in which we entertain the grants. And I will say the initial process that was provided, I had applied on behalf of the city of Brookings, and as Mary Rowe had mentioned, I had applied on that, and it was going to be in support of another grant to help with the help me out.
We're at
the costs. My brain just went dead.
I understand.
It was to help with the the offset. So it was a 60-40 grant. We had to provide 40%. So it was to help with the offset of that cost. So it was timely. It was needed. We needed a response. because we were applying for that grant with this in mind with that. And as Mary had mentioned, there was no response. But the process was solid. There was a process, there was a presentation of materials, there was a committee, and then there was a recommendation. And that sounds like a pretty good process to, you know, maybe to in terms of not having to completely reinvent the wheel, but actually follow through with the wheel. In terms of, but also I think it comes down to having parameters on maybe this second quarter block grant is for X amount, not for what's available, but what we make available, knowing that maybe next quarter we may need to do it again. And it also provides people who may have not received it to apply again, to have a chance at getting at that. So I think the way this is done is going to be fairly complex, and is going to need some real thought. But as you mentioned, it starts with how much do we actually have,
Right.
And is this potentially something we need to workshop? Because it sounds like a larger topic that needs a lot more discussion, because there's a lot of steps, right? Who, what, when, how, and
do we need a committee? Do we do it without a committee?
correct. The board can be the committee that's
Right.
presented to,
Right.
but having that essentially however that funnel is,
Parameters, yeah.
right? But so that it's not, because you had mentioned Shark Tank, but what I have seen is at least Shark Tank, there's a coordinated effort on when people
Right.
come in. If you came in the right day with the right frame of mind and maybe the right background information, you might get what you're asking for, as opposed to having it all consolidated down to, those. So I would suggest that we workshop this, and we workshop it fairly soon.
Yeah.
And we dedicate some real time and resources to it, because that also gives us the opportunity to bring finance in, to as Treasurer Barnes' recommendation, to say, what does this oversight look like?
Right. I also heard a couple of things from Mary Rowe that I think resonate on this, because she was talking about people making the applications, but I like the idea of blocking out money for the public and being transparent about how much, because in reality it sounded from me coming in when I did, it sounded like the county was competing for those funds.
Right.
And I think that stuff should have been thought through first before we start distributing out, because all of a sudden we've got county needs competing with the food bank and issues
Right.
like that, and that creates it certainly creates an atmosphere that sounds unfair. So
Right. Well, for instance, when the city received ARP funds, one of the first things that we had to do was essentially identify how COVID had impacted city service and expenses and et cetera, and what that looked like as a big pie, as a big part, and you were part of that. So, I don't know if that's been done here as another piece of this moving puzzle.
Yeah.
So
I think a piece of it was put away for, people who stayed home and laptops that, but
Yeah.
definitely, it's flawed,
I haven't seen any collection of individual impacts. Like, for example, if you're talking about COVID, work from home, that sort of thing, that would be an issue where each department was impacted to a certain level, just with IT costs alone. That would be a situation that I've been wanting to look into too, because that was a legitimate actual cost to the county, and I don't think that was done, but I could be wrong.
Well, I would support doing a workshop on that, so we can iron out the details and have a solid mechanism that would be long lasting, that we can put in place here and continue.
a system that we can pull out,
Yeah.
put in play when we need it.
Yep. Yeah, I would support that.
Me too.
Okay.
I don't think we need a motion or anything on that, just
Just-
moving forward, even the 15th.
Consensus to direct Ted to put on a schedule,
Yeah,
right?
Yeah.
yeah.
Yep.
G, 6G is employee payroll issues. Brad Elkhorn.
So, this was brought to my attention. I had some of our employees got a hold of me, and there were some concerns about their paychecks not being correct. And the first thing I want to say is our finance department does a great job. The problems that were pointed out to me, these are not like they're widespread problems and our people aren't getting paid. That's absolutely not the issue. However, there are periodic issues that come up with paychecks. I experienced that myself in my old job because you have pay periods that can be complex, and then timelines, and then you have different COLAs, different percentages that are sometimes challenging to calculate, especially with the volume of people that we have here at the county. But this was communicated to me, and it's important that the people that work here understand that you're valuable to us. And when you come to work, you're going to get paid. And
Paid correctly.
yes,
Yep.
no ifs, ands, or buts. 8 hours work, 8 hours pay. And we're going to make sure that that happens. So I did talk to Julie and Frank yesterday, and we had a little bit of discussion about just making sure that we're giving finance all the tools they need, that our people are trained. I'd also like to look at training our people so they can interpret pay stubs. It sounds kind of simple, but when you look at a pay stub, sometimes it's difficult to understand. So I want to make sure we're accommodating finance with what they need, and we're accommodating our employees with the tools that they need, so that we're as efficient as we can when it comes to this issue. I had a discussion yesterday, and we talked about a program, Connect Online. Frank brought it up. It was one of his recommendations. That might be worthwhile looking at. And I don't know, I discussed it with him yesterday about outsourcing payroll. Frank did not recommend that, but it might be worthwhile to include that in the conversation as well. The problem that I have is kind of a much broader problem. When issues like this are brought to me in a liaison perspective, we really don't have a single point of contact here at the county to address this stuff, and we can't even talk about it because there's three of us.
Yeah.
So I can't
talk about it. Yeah.
Right, I can't pop into your office and go, hey John,
We got a
I got an
problem.
issue here. I'd like to do this and this and this, and boy, I can't do it. So, that's an issue I think we need to talk about too, separate and apart from the financial issues. But what I'm thinking on this is to have county council get involved in this and explore our options and ensure that we are providing everything finance needs to be as efficient as they can, and providing everything that our employees need to ensure that their needs are taken care of and they're getting paid.
Okay.
I'm just glad you brought up the single point of contact, because this is interdepartmental workings that don't need to be discussed in this meeting.
Right.
That
But
very well could be handled.
But we have to.
I know. I understand.
And it's frustrating because we don't have that single point of contact.
Yeah. Yeah. So, I agree.
Okay. So would we agree to have county council get involved in that and
I'm in agreement with that.
explore what those options are?
Frank and I talked about it, and he said, he wants to have a tutorial or not a manager's meeting, but talk about it in a So if you don't know how to look up and find out what's going on with your pay stub, he'll help you. Frank, if you want to speak to that, come on up.
10 o'clock.
Pardon me?
You're at 10 o'clock.
Oh, we're at 10 o'clock. Okay.
So
We'll
I'll
have
make it brief. Frank
You're
Jerome,
fine.
Finance Director. Last week it was brought to our attention that there was a payroll issue in one with one person. And as I investigated, I wanted to know what the scope of the problem was, how many people are involved, how far back it went. And when we went through our investigation, it turned out that one of the issues was there was a bug introduced into the payroll system at Casell when they did an update just before Thanksgiving. So the people that were affected were people who had what we call exceptions. They're like they have step increases or holiday pay or something like that during that period. So it only happened to a handful of people.
Okay.
And then the other issue was the pay stub issue. And Casell said that they were aware that the pay stub doesn't reflect accurately the person's pay when they step or they have an exception. So we routinely have been giving out a detailed payroll report when that person has either a step or an occasion. So we've been doing that. I sent out an email last week, and I said that we want to have a training with department heads and anybody else that they want. It could be for all employees, so they can read and understand their payroll stub. So they know, like FICA is, what the unemployment insurance is, all these things, all these deductions that we make. So I feel that we addressed that. The other point I'd like to bring up is I haven't sat down to statistically analyze what it is, but I'm pretty sure that the rate of error is very low compared to the number of transactions that we've had. If we have 20 errors over a 3-year period and we've had thousands of transactions, that's a fraction of a percent. We've also started training Elizabeth to do payroll. So we're going to have 2 sets of eyes of people that are knowledgeable about payroll to review it. So if Elizabeth does the payroll, Julie Swift will review that. And then I also review the final remittance. If Julie does payroll, then Elizabeth will review it. And they know what the issues are, where the errors occur. And so that's going to bring down what I think is a very low error rate, even lower.
So some years ago, I understand some years ago they did a partial audit.
Well, apparently there was, I've seen 2 different audit reports. One was done by Moss Adams, and they had a series of recommendations. And some of those things, I just saw that report yesterday.
And that was that the one with where they found some relatively high error rate, as I recall, in the sample, because there's a partial group of employees.
Yeah, there was a partial group, and they addressed some of the issues, and some of the things we have already implemented.
Not to
without
interrupt,
knowing that.
but Ted, is this something you can follow up with?
Yeah, we can talk about this offline.
Okay.
We'll do that. That's fine.
Okay.
I just wanted to make sure that we're talking about the same thing, because then I heard there was another audit which it's best let's get
We'll
together
talk
and we'll
about
work
it.
through it.
But yeah, we are taking steps. We want to have a workshop so that people know what to look at and how to review it, because ultimately they're responsible to make sure that their pay is right. And if they have questions, it's better to address it the month or the week that it happens, rather than let something go for months or possibly even years and then rectify it.
Well, I love to hear that there's checks and balances and I know Kevin Swift is really happy to hear that Julie maybe can get 2 weeks off sometime.
Yes, well, that was part of the motivation was to relieve the burden so that
that's good.
We don't have one critical employee who can never do anything.
That's good.
Okay?
Very good.
Thank you, Frank.
Thank you.
So it's 10 o'clock. We're going to do the public hearing for the CDBG grant for Langlois Water, and then we're going to take a break and come back and do the 10:15 public hearing. Go ahead, Summer.
Good morning, Commissioners, public. Summer Madison, Economic Development. This is public notice. Curry County is eligible to apply for a 2023 Community Development Block Grant from the Business Oregon Community Development Block Grant Funds of the U.S. Department of Housing and Urban Development. The grants can be used for public facilities and housing improvements, primarily for persons with low and moderate incomes. Approximately $12 million will be awarded to Oregon non-metropolitan cities and counties in 2023. The maximum grant that the city or county can receive is $2.5 million for a public work project. Curry County is preparing an application for a 2023 Community Development Block Grant from Business Oregon for water system upgrades of Langlois Water District. It is estimated that the proposed project will benefit at least 218 persons, of whom at least 51% will be low or moderate income. Public hearing will be held by the Curry County Board of Commissioners at 10 a.m. on March 1, 2023 at the Board of Commissioners hearing room located at 94235 Moore Street, Gold Beach, Oregon 97444. The purpose of this hearing is for the Curry County Board of Commissioners to obtain citizen views and to respond to questions and comments about community development and housing needs, especially the needs of low and moderate income persons, as well as other needs in the community that might be assisted with a community development block grant project, as well as the proposed project. Written comments are also welcome and must be received by 9 a.m. on March 1, 2023 at the Board of Commissioners, located at 94235 Moore Street, Suite 122, Gold Beach, Oregon 97444. Both oral and written comments will be considered by the Curry County Board of Commissioners in deciding whether to apply. The location of the hearing is accessible to persons with disabilities. Please contact John Jesuit of the Board of Commissioners office at 541-247-3296 if you will need any physical or special accommodations to attend or participate in the meeting. More information about Oregon Community Development Block Grants, the proposed project, and records about Curry County's past use of Community Development Block Grant funds is available for public review, located at Curry County Board of Commissioners, 94235 Moore Street, Suite 122, Gold Beach, Oregon 97444 during regular office hours. Advance notice is requested. If special accommodations are needed, please notify John Jesuit at the Board of Commissioners office at 541-247-3296 so that appropriate assistance can be provided. Permanent involuntary displacement of persons or businesses is not anticipated as a result from the proposed project. If displacement becomes necessary, alternatives will be examined to minimize the displacement and provide required and reasonable benefits to those displaced. Any low and moderate income housing that is demolished or converted to another use will be replaced.
Thank you, Summer, for reading that. Is there anybody who would like to speak for or against the public hearing for the Langlois Water District? Pardon me?
Likewise.
So we appreciate your work, Summer.
Thank you. And hearing none, it's noted. It's a public hearing. We will take a break now.
Were there any?
Do you have any questions, commissioners? For
I'm just wondering if there were any comments submitted in writing.
JJ? Any?
Okay. Anything further?
Nope, we're good.
Thank you.
We're going to take a 15-minute break and be back here, and then we'll discuss the public hearing regarding amendments to Article 8, Division 2, Curry County Code. So 15 minutes from now, let's just be back here at 10:25.
Our constituents and our patrons are extremely concerned, as they ought to be. And really the
Microphone's on. All right, ladies and gentlemen, we're back from a break. We're still in public hearings, and we're going to do the 10:15 public hearing regarding amendments to Article 8, Division 2 of Curry County Code. Monica Ward, Emergency Management Director.
Actually, we're talking about that.
Okay.
Based on the public input and the unclarity to everybody, we'd like to pull that off and turn it in. We're gonna have a workshop first so that we can fully understand it. I'm still getting up to speed on that.
Okay.
I want to make sure that that the fair, there are legitimate issues that we heard today from public comment that I think would bear,
So-
us all to be.
So
educated.
I'm interested in a workshop on this because public comment, obviously, and I got several emails, phone calls, text messages, and I take every one of those. They're all very important.
Mm-hmm.
But the consensus I got from all of it was
there's a lot of misunderstanding and misinformation
Okay.
on multiple fronts. So I think if we have a workshop and we can discuss it in detail, I think the public will kind of learn what the best path would be. And I want to hear more input from everyone else also.
I agree.
Well, I'm 100% in favor because I don't even know what might be misinformation because I'm not informed at all.
Perfect.
Well, very good. I think we have two excellent workshops coming up on the 15th that are just going to be very informative. So,
Okay.
that being said, we are pulling that off of the agenda, and the next thing on the agenda was 6H, which is still Commissioner Alcorn, Annex generator failure. We had a generator failure.
We did, so that generator failure, we're obviously familiar with the first generator failure, which, you remember the date on that, John? Mid-December?
Was it the first? There was a storm on the 9th, and there was a storm on the 26th.
I think it was the 26th, I
26th,
think.
yeah. It was.
So, and the server went down. We had a bunch of issues with that. And then we had another one, and then the generator failed to start. And there seems to be quite a bit of confusion about whose responsibility is that. And, who's responsible for the maintenance, who's responsible for keeping any logs on that, who's responsible for the immediate response to it. And then there's some other issues that, we should not, once we have one problem, we shouldn't have it again. And the servers went down again.
It was a different problem, though.
Different problem.
First time I ran out of diesel.
Right.
This time it was a switch.
It was another issue, but we still had the servers go down. So should we be looking at an off-site capacity for those servers? Should we be looking at other IT solutions to that?
Yeah, so again, it probably goes into your previous conversation.
Point of contact.
Right, but I want to just, but I'll give you a quick update from the information that I have on this. So when Frank arrived, not Frank, Charles. When Charles arrived, the generator was not working, and it was not coded. And as many of you know, if there was a interruption in the ability for it to start, it would code. It would provide a code showing that error. There was no code, which essentially was able to troubleshoot to the point where the switch never engaged the motor to actually create a code, which they found was the case. Sounds like the batteries within the switch were not operable. So Charles has set up, the Peterson Cat will be out here on the 14th to do a complete service on the entire generator, and then setting up routine service and inspection on that piece of equipment as well. Now there are some other, from what I understand, there's some other underlying potential issues that we need to potentially have assessed by probably some professionals, but and I could be completely wrong, but the information that I've gotten is that we have a battery bank that lasts about 2 minutes from the interim of power going out and power coming on. However, specifically, they tested it again in this extreme cold weather the other day, and the generator took a long time to get going, which exceeded the 2 minutes as well. So we're looking at a battery bank that's supposed to keep us going until that generator kicks on, but it sounds like we may not even have the right capacity to keep that going on when the generator is operating optimally, which would create another power interruption. So there's some other pieces of, there's been, at one point, the road department maintained all the generators, and then somebody said, no, I don't want you to do that anymore. So then they were doing it. But then a lot of this communication doesn't complete a circle. And so, and you get a guy, Charles, stepping in and learning it on the go as well. So, he is going to set up the systems, though, to make sure that a professional is looking at it on a routine basis. And then when they come, he will ask for their professional advice on how often they need to come out to ensure that it is inspected, serviced, and making sure.
And then maybe we can transform that into a policy so that it's just set. We can we can have a.
That's. I mean, what would happen was unacceptable.
Right.
Capital letters with an exclamation mark.
You're right, and there's a lot that,
Yeah, and that's a good analogy. The circle's never complete, right? And again, it's the issue of a lack of effectiveness of the liaison, and not being able to communicate with each other and do it effectively and timely. It's frustrating. It's pretty frustrating.
Well, and I can speak a little bit to that. For 2 years and 2 months, every Wednesday at noon, that stupid generator comes on without fail until we have a power outage. When Tad was here, it comes on because that's what they do. It just comes on once a week just to run and test run until we have, so I think we need longer battery backup.
Longer battery.
Because when it's cold, that's usually part of the problem. Longer battery backup, and then just, I think with Peterson Cat coming to look
and also on-site routine checks.
Yeah.
We can, there's some things we're learning about the switch itself, that, the switch is battery operated.
Yeah.
And checking those batteries to ensure that they are running.
So, checklist.
But I hate to say it, but you just have to do a SOP like, in the military where you put every little thing down and say, check this, check this, check
Date
that.
and time.
You're running it comes on every Wednesday, but nobody's checking the fuel. And then you end up running out of fuel.
Every week it needs to have that
Yeah.
checklist. You're right.
Yeah.
So,
Agreed.
are we good there?
Yeah.
Okay. Next up is Board of Commissioners Rules of Order. Commissioner Trost.
Thanks. So, so one of the things, obviously coming in pretty blind and fresh on this. I'm pragmatic on how I do things, and so you want to learn as much as you can. And the basis of this meeting is generally one of the the views from the public, and so I was looking into our adopted rules of order, and our rules of order, and it's called Order and Decorum of Board Meetings, and what I was able to identify is that the majority of it, almost all of it, is pertains to the audience, not the board. And I think
Wild audiences, yeah.
well, obviously, in all of them, there needs to be rules of order for the audience as well. But I think rules of order on how the meeting is conducted, the roles. I mean, there are some specific. There are I think there's a chair rule, but the authority and rule of the chair, the authority and role of the members, etc. So obviously the most accepted form of rules is Roberts. Yep. And I'm not saying that we need to adopt Robert's Rules of Order, but what I'm saying is that maybe what we could do is look at a time where we can evaluate some rules of order and identify what's best for this board, and maybe adopt those formally, so that so that when people do come in, and these chairs change just as often as
Yeah.
that circle you talk about.
I agree.
And having a structure to ensure that business moves forward as planned, and that people understand the parameters of that structure.
Hey, I'm all for
Whoever
that.
sits here, yeah.
I'm all for that. 100%. We're making some really good progress.
Email that or?
You can have that one.
Okay.
We're making some really good progress moving forward, and I want to do everything that I can do to continue that, and more structure is good with me.
Well, and so in the essence of that, I guess one of the things that I'm asking for is a little bit more ability to communicate. I think it's the number one hindrance for this board and for trust perception. And so I would ask that, we could set a workshop, and maybe, the items that I have on today can all be on one single workshop at some point in the future to really hammer in. But I would like to at least have that added to an upcoming workshop. And
I just want my 2 cents is that if you don't have established structure for parliamentary procedure in a meeting,
you can't have progress.
well, you can't have chaos though. You can
Yeah, that's all
really,
you
and
can
you
have.
just it's
That's
just
all you have,
incredible.
yeah.
And so, and I've been a part of that in several different organizations, and I've also been a part of it where the organizations are willfully engaged in that because they enjoy chaos. And this, my opinion, this entity needs less chaos, more structure, and stemming from the commission right here. The commission needs to be. That's why you get it established, and then you guys all get voted out. Whatever happens, we get the new people. Well, they'll have to take unilateral action to reestablish chaos, which is not as easy.
Yeah. It's just good to have structure, right? We know that. So, on the topic of communication and workshopping, and I don't know if maybe this probably not not necessarily an agenda item, but something to just consider. But right now I think we have it set up to where our workshops are at the end of scheduled meetings, which I don't personally feel, having been involved in a lot of this, is very productive when you have expended your mind or your brain capacity for hours, and then expected to jump into problem solving, which is workshopping generally. You're not going to be at your best capacity, so I would maybe say if we would entertain going back to having workshops every other week that we do not have our agenda items, so that we can dedicate that day to problem solving.
Yeah.
I think that would be. I think especially the workshop we just set, that would be a wonderful one to do next week instead of the following week, because it's time sensitive. And we do that and get in ahead of because March 15th the transportation safety plan, I think, is what Becky's brought forward. It's going to be a big all-encompassing
that's a big
thing that we're going to want to focus on.
Yep. So,
Yeah, I agree, 100%.
So I guess it's just required a consensus to
I totally agree, because these days, our mind, yeah.
we want to be
break it
focused on
lunch.
what's in front of us.
Well,
Come
there's a
back
lot
at
of-
2 o'clock and
There's a lot of prep for the issues that are on the agenda, so there's also prep for workshops and running them together with a short period of time. It would be much more conducive to time management to do that, for sure.
yeah, great idea.
Okay. Next item is
Sure.
Can I move into that? Okay.
Yes, you
so, liaisons. So another, my next role. We roll in here and roll to our department heads, and other community stakeholders. So, I was trying to find what the role is as a liaison, because when I was a department head, it was one way, and I've kind of seen it peel off into a different direction. And so what I have found is that there was a liaison there was liaison duties adopted in 2013. Formal, what those roles and responsibilities are for as a liaison. However, those were repealed in 2015 when there was when a county administrator was hired. Now, the county obviously has been in flux, back and forth, back and forth, back and forth. However, in that back and forth, no liaison roles and responsibilities were ever readopted or adopted anew. So again, there's not a lot of structure to what the expectation is coming in as a new county commissioner. So you default to what you see happening, which, as we know, over time erodes with different personalities or different people in those positions or different chairs. So I think having again some structure so that the roles and responsibilities are not only just known on the commissioner side, but also by the stakeholders and the department heads, and what they can expect from that liaison.
Right.
And so I think.
So this was an issue that I brought up in the very first meeting, defining the roles of a commissioner and including and incorporating into that the parameters of being a liaison. But it's so subjective right now, and it's really handcuffing the progress of government here.
Right.
It really is. And I think right now we have some management issues that need to be dealt with. And the most effective way to do that would be to create a single point of contact for that. It doesn't necessarily need to be permanent, but I think right now, to bring clarity to department heads and to resolve some of the management issues that we have, I think it would be to our best interest to assign a single point of contact to do that. And I know we've done that in the past. I believe we used county council in the past. That was way before I was in this position. But I think we should discuss that.
In 2017, they passed an ordinance regarding the appointment of a county administrator, and it talks about the situation right now is that you've got the commissioners have a lot of duties that they have assumed, but from my perspective, whatever the definition of a liaison is, those duties are relatively impractical to actually apply because you were elected as elected officials. You were not elected as supervisors. This has been
right.
You were elected to act in the role that you're acting right now, which is that's what you're specifically supposed to be doing.
Well, and I would even say further that this is a good example of what you're saying, because that's your interpretation, because there is no structure.
Right, exactly.
So it bleeds down to whoever's interpretation it is at the time.
Right, exactly. And so my position is and always has been that elected boards are elected boards, and they're there to set policy and direct the overall functioning of the agency, whatever it is. But in every other situation I've been involved in, there have always been people that have chosen to take a more direct role, and in nonprofits and those sorts of things, that can be really destructive, because and actually can be destructive at any level. When you have a port commission, for example, that decides they're going to start running part of the port, that's a problem, and it's a recurring problem with elected officials. That's just the nature of the beast. So I look at this and I don't know how. I mean, I've read various different liaison duties that I've seen over the years for the county, and they do change, and the communication, I think, to staff is it creates basically a kind of a vacuum of oversight. It's very difficult to really actually supervise somebody with the roles, within the role of the liaison. You can, I remember when you were talking about this, when you guys first had that first meeting in January, it was the point of contact, initial point of contact, and that liaison would bring the issues of the department head to the commission. Okay.
Right. But they're not getting resolved.
But then there's a lot of other duties that aren't getting done.
Right.
So that was the extent of it.
And not everything can be brought, you don't want everything
Right.
brought in a public meeting.
No, doesn't need to be.
Yeah, with
Like
employee
with
issues.
payroll issues, those are best handled with the nuts and bolts out there dealing with the actual scenario.
So the mechanism that was used before that was, what year was that?
In 2017, they passed ordinance 17-01. I don't believe it's been repealed, but it gives the power and duties of the county administrator. County administrator shall be responsible to the Board of Commissioners for the administration and management of the county and shall have control and supervision of all county departments, divisions, and offices subject to his or her jurisdiction, except county sheriff, county council, and district attorney and their respective offices and staff, or as otherwise provided by law. I think that language should be modified a little bit because we have actual other mandated elected official departments that the county administrator really doesn't. That's not an accurate statement. So I'd want to.
JJ said it has been repealed.
Oh, it has been? Okay. Well, I'll continue reading it because this would basically, if this is what these are the powers that you would be talking about. The county administrator shall be responsible to the board for the following functions: coordinating the activities of all other county elected departments, devising ways and means whereby efficiency and economy may be secured in the operation of all offices and departments. County administrator shall exercise no authority over the actions of elected county officials while they are performing the duties of their offices. So that would be, I guess we could just take the initial language out and leave that in because that's the for example, the assessor has the right to run her office
Right.
to the way that she wants to.
Clerk, treasurer.
Yeah.
Elected officials.
Okay, let's see. Directing the activities of all other county-appointed administrative departments, select, appoint, supervise, discipline, or dismiss all county staff and all employees, recruitment, appointment, corrective action, and dismissal of non-elected department directors, preparation of administration of annual department director performance evaluations, the setting and adjusting of salaries of administrative department directors in annual merit adjustments within the ranges approved by the board. Before taking final action on appointment or dismissal of department directors, the administrator shall advise the board of the cause and process used in such action. Adjusting of salaries of employees and non-elected department heads in accordance with the performance evaluations within the salary ranges approved by the board. County administrator has no such power under this subsection over employees in the sheriff's office or district attorney's office. Acting as the county budget officer responsible for the preparation and recommendation of the annual budget and compensation plan, administer the provisions of the budget as adopted by the board, preparing and administering a management and employee compensation and benefits plan, planning, directing, and evaluation of the development of internal management systems and procedures, preparing administrative regulations and policies to carry out the efficient operation of the county, enforcing ordinances, orders, rules, regulations, procedures, and policies adopted by the board and administrator, preparing and submitting an annual report on the status of county operations and other reports upon request of the board, performing community relations functions to include internal publications, external communications, media liaison, community organization liaison, advisory committee liaison, citizen assistance, information center, publication coordination and graphic support services, website management. Preparing and managing board agenda and performing clerk of the board meeting functions and providing other staff support for the board, providing intergovernmental relations staff functions for the board, overseeing economic development functions, executing, enforcing, and administering all contracts and grants as per board order of ordinance, attending all board meetings and keep the board informed of pertinent matters relating to the administration and management of the county, administering the risk management program for the county and its service districts, directing the use, operation, maintenance, control, and custody of all county and district property, buildings, works, and improvements, other duties as assigned by majority vote by board order. That's pretty much it.
No wonder we don't have one there. It's impossible for one person to do that.
Well, it has, the person is also able to delegate some of those roles. But, county administrator may subdelegate any authority granted by this chapter to county department heads or other county or district staff in a manner consistent with the provisions of the county code. Notwithstanding such a delegation, the county administrator shall be responsible for execution of all matters delegated. When a permanent, well, yeah, that's the guts of what was. Those are the powers that would allow a county administrator to basically run the county at this point.
But the topic we're on, though, is liaison priorities, or liaison.
Right, and I think this
Roll,
conversation falls under that umbrella because it's not working, and I'm looking for solutions to that.
That point, yeah, single.
And with creating that single point of contact, that was done for a limited period of time, correct?
That was County Council John Huddle was appointed interim county administrator on January 9th, 2019. I think he served on
It was in between.
January, yeah, I think till January 18th.
Yeah, it was between Schroeder and Schroeder and Schmelzer.
Schmelzer, yeah. Hired Julie Schmelzer to be the director of operations with the start day of January 18th.
Well, we've got some management issues to work out, so I don't know, is that something we want to consider doing for a limited period of time until those are worked out?
I mean, I would be open to it. I definitely would say we can't be ready, fire, aim on something like that.
Sure.
You know, because then we'd just be having another meeting to clean up the meeting, right? So, you know, if we can get it to be very clear and concise, with the understanding that this is a bridge to get us to
Right.
A more
effective
mode of operation, then I would say, yeah. On the topic of liaison, that obviously still needs to be handled, because that changes that a little.
It does.
That little
has a
mode,
direct impact on it, sure.
you know. So
That's why this, I think, falls under that umbrella.
yeah.
Your thoughts on the repealed liaison memo or article or ordinance, or what was it? I mean, was it?
Yeah, the what it was created in 2013. That was repealed. It's I mean, it's well written. I also had reached out to Commissioner Sweet in Coos.
Yeah, John Sweet.
They'd had they've gone through this as well, and he was gonna shoot some information over as well as how they did their liaison process as well. So I think again it'd be just one of those that we could add to an organizational workshop, and go from there. But in the meantime, I think is what Brad is saying.
Yeah.
In the meantime, till we get to that workshop and we are able to really provide some definitive direction, is this worthy of discussion?
Yes.
To me, it makes sense to have it be Ted, because Ted can speak directly to each one of us.
Yep.
And, you know, that he's kind of our mouthpiece anyhow, if we need to get information to one another. So, that, to me, that makes sense, and it seems like it made sense at one time because they appointed John Huddle, who was a county council. So what are your thoughts on that, gentlemen?
I like it. I think it'll resolve some issues.
So the ordinance that allowed it, as I understand it, was repealed. I believe that you still could, if you wanted to do this temporarily, you could delegate those powers delegated in the ordinance to the county administrator to county council temporarily, and then you could consider whether you want to formalize it with a with a new ordinance. But you have the power to delegate those duties to whoever you want. I think that a lot of some of those duties, a fair number of them, my role as county council, I'm responsible for them right now. So eventually, with a full-time, if you do a search and you get an administrator, then a lot of the jobs that are currently being done by me
County council?
and by a lot of the department heads also will be done by this person, and I do think it's going to make it a lot more workable, because the whole idea here is that eventually you're going to have one point of contact where communication is going to be going through that person or office, and it's going to and you're going to have less of the chaos that we are currently experiencing.
Well, when I came on board, gentlemen, in 2021, that we had a county administrator, director of operations, and it didn't work. And I was a brand new commissioner, and I said, I'm going to give this 6 months. Kind of, I was brand new like you, just and look at it, and it wasn't working. So
why didn't it work?
Well, that person has got to. It's that person. It's got to be. You got to have the right person.
Right.
That's it, right? So I mean, that is kind of in any position you have or any job you've ever had. If you have a good manager, I mean, if you're, that's what makes it all work, right?
So but I guess what I'm hearing is you're saying it wasn't the position, it was the person that wasn't working.
That, and the county has voted unanimously for 3 or 4 times that they don't want it. They never did want home rule. There's been 3 or 4 elections, and it's always been no home rule, and that means commissioner run.
Right.
And we've done it anyhow, in a
Well,
way.
you can have an administrator without having home rule.
Well, obviously, right? I mean, that's what happened. But
Yeah, because we did. We had
John
Clark
Schroeder,
Clark Schroeder,
Julie Schmelzer.
So,
Well,
and Brad Rickard. So
what I want to do right now is I want to deal with the management problems we have in an effective and timely manner.
yeah,
Right now.
Today, moving forward.
Yeah,
Right.
because
Exactly.
we have several issues that department heads need answers and direct communication on. And we need to be effective in doing that. And the only way we're going to accomplish that is with a single point of contact. So, in a time period, whether it's 6 months or 3 months or whatever it is, we need to bridge that gap right now.
And are you okay with?
I'm perfectly fine with
Yeah.
that doing it. Yeah, I'm good with that.
Obviously, there's some other questions that would have to be. What's temporary? What's the
Right.
timeline?
Yeah.
What are what are the expectations within that? 'Cause we don't want to create another chaotic situation.
No, not at all.
And by changing it.
No.
And
We want
so,
to fix the problem.
Right. And so, I think we need to really dial in what that looks like. If I don't know if I definitely feel that it's valuable we proceed with this kind of a direction, and I even say if we're feeling like you're feeling like we could do this today.
Yeah. Yeah, we've got issues that need to be
So there are other issues regarding the nature and the description of what, I'd need to get paid and stuff like that. I mean, we'd have to figure all that out. That would be that issue, that would need to be something that would be handled in executive session. But in the meantime, I mean, I would agree to do this on an interim basis with no change as long as an executive session is scheduled to determine the fair, compensation package, whatever it is, for this short term. Because it's a weird thing because it's a short term thing. So I think it is important though. I think it's outweighing. If we could have that executive session within the next week or 10 days, I'd be happy with that. But in the meantime, I do think
we
that
couldn't do it. I mean, we have it. It's on here it's on our agenda.
Well, I guess we could.
I mean, it's right there, and it's a public office, employee, staff member, individual agent. So.
All right. I'm sort of a ready, fire, aim situation.
Okay.
Yeah, there's probably some information we need to gather to have a real concise meeting. Yep. I don't even know what the budget is on that, right? So there's probably some information that we need to dive into, but I think we could move forward with this, and maybe in the interim. I mean, I don't know. Those duties were extremely expansive, but when we talk about single point of contact, I think that's the most important piece, right? Having the ability to have a single person that you can communicate to, that then has the ability to communicate to us, right? So that that happens in real time, not in weekly or bi-weekly discussions.
First and third Wednesday, yeah.
Correct. And then also having a single point of contact going in the other direction. But I think having that is vital. I think maybe what we do is we say and I'm just this is spitballing right now, but maybe it's said it acts as the single point of contact for all of the non-elected department heads, and works to resolve some of the maybe communication gaps that are occurring. However, any employment-related decisions are brought before the board as a recommendation for the board to make decisions. So basically, all of the duties minus the hiring and firing.
That's fine with me.
And that way, we still gain a single point of contact, but we can still have some structure around how we build this look.
Yeah.
Does that make sense?
Yeah, no. In fact, I like that language. All of the duties except hiring and firing. I like that.
Okay.
And I know that we will, if we don't adopt this today, we will, all three of us will have, thoughts on this, over
this gives us
next couple days and a weekend, and
this gives us time to shape it.
yeah.
Because the nice thing about doing kind of a test deal is receiving the information on what was actually working well and what needs to be.
So we would essentially be granting Ted the authority to do that.
Right.
Yeah.
So right here it says, in the old order, it says before taking final action on appointment or dismissal of department directors, the administrator shall advise.
Got to turn your mic on, Ted.
I'm
Sorry.
Says before taking final action on appointment or dismissal of department directors, the administrator shall advise the board of the cause and process used in such action. I think what you're asking for is in this.
Yeah, advise means notice. Right?
Okay,
Must gain approval,
okay,
I think, is the term that.
shall advise the board of the cause and process using such action, and
Such action must be taken by the board by consensus.
and recommend action to be taken by board.
Yeah.
That way you can do what you want. Okay?
I like the idea of a 3-month, try this for 3 months and see how it's working.
How long did you say?
3 months?
Um,
Is that too long or too
Well,
short or?
I guess my opinion would be we have to coincide this somehow with the upcoming budget season, because if this is a direction that we feel is going to be a direction that we want to look at
Yeah. So we got March, April,
long
May.
term, then it's something that probably should be budgeted for long term. So, I mean, maybe what we do is we do a 30-day check-in.
Okay.
And then, we kind of were able to get consensus and grasp, but in the meantime, I think we also need to be workshopping
Agree.
this process and building what it is we're looking for, whether it's in conjunction with the liaison rules, whether we find out, hey, maybe it's not the direction, whatever it might be, but workshopping it along the way.
Yep.
Yeah, I agree with that.
So,
HR Director Julie Swift has walked in and she has got some on her mind, I can tell.
Julie Swift, Payroll and HR. So when we did away with the county administrator position and we hired the director of operations and brought back Julie Schmelzer, basically she was that point of contact for the board. She was, she reviewed and evaluated the department heads. The main thing she did not have was the hire and fire authority. That was still the authority of the board. So she basically had the same duties, but not the hire fire authority.
okay.
So just so what you're doing now is what was done when they did away with the administrator and created the director of operations.
Okay.
So the administrator had the hire and fire, and then okay.
Yes.
And
How did that work?
Well, he wasn't here very long, so he did have.
No, I mean,
So
director of
we that's when we had so as far as the administrator, we did away with the orders to the board for every hire and every personnel action. So he was able to sign off on the personnel action form to have those form done, which the sheriff still has that ability in his office. And any hire fire that had to be done by the director of operations, then we went back to that board order before the board, and any decisions as far as department head discipline or termination came to the board. So hire orders, personnel changes came to the board like they are now. She didn't have that authority, and so it was approved by the board as a whole.
well, thanks, Julie, because as you were just doing that, JJ just sent over. You may have already sent it.
No, but he gave me the thumbs up when I walked in the door.
Okay, so he just emailed you the director of operations job title summary, job description, which sounds exactly like what we are describing right now.
Okay.
So, thank you.
Questions, comment?
I'm just gonna give it a quick read.
Do you want to see it?
So you're thinking,
No, I'm good.
Okay.
you're thinking like 30 days? And
Well, I think what we do is we set up workshops and then a formal 30-day review where we are, because the workshop's going to be just really talking about what do we need,
yeah,
right?
More defining, more.
Right,
Yeah.
it's going to be defining what we need,
Yeah.
but and then having a formal 30-day talk, like where are we at, where do we see in,
Okay.
so we can kind of discuss that part,
Yeah.
separate from building it.
Yeah, so we would basically authorize
Ted, to have that authority now, and then we'd have a workshop, and then
On
within
a-
30 days, we would reevaluate.
Oh, well, we just say on an interim basis with a 30-day evaluation.
Okay. Yeah, I'd be good with that.
And so you just, yeah, so the job description, it pretty much mirrors what you're talking about, so it would be the director of operations.
Yeah.
Yeah. That'll bridge that gap, and it'll solve some immediate problems.
Right. And let's also be, super obvious that it's going to raise concern within departments as well. In terms of it's another change, and it's a struggle, and change, that's why I think it's important that we get every voices involved in this workshopping process as well. That because Julie's lived through it. I lived through a few, two different county administrators, and it was new when we were doing that. The best way to not repeat the mistakes of the past is to acknowledge them, and figure out what did work and what can work, and if it is to work. But I think involving everybody along the process as well is going to be pretty tremendous.
And checking in, that's
Yeah.
Just because we do it and say, if we didn't have a 30-day checkup, it could just that's going to be the make or break. We just got to we got to find something that works and go with it.
Mm-hmm.
And that's the key here.
But I will say a good percentage in the couple weeks of working on county business a lot could have been resolved with
Yeah.
a single point of contact.
Right.
And a lot of communication would have been much quicker and much more efficient and more productive.
Yeah, and it's needed right now because we are making a lot of changes. We are throwing a lot at department heads, and we're moving very quickly, and it's all positive, and it's all in the best interest of the county. But this will clean a lot of that up.
So if you want to do it, then you're gonna want to move for an order appointing me as director of operations in
Interim capacity.
in interim capacity in conformance with the description in the email from JJ.
And it's order 20615
Yeah.
in conjunction with order 20615.
So I'll entertain a motion, gentlemen.
Actually, before we do that, I would like to move into, if we're going to do that, we should move into executive session and figure out.
Prior to?
Yeah.
Okay, that makes sense.
I can't agree to it until I know what I want.
Gotcha.
to do.
Gotcha. So before we do that, it's 11:15. Let's do the 11 o'clock public hearing with Curry CTR. Luke Pike is here. Is that everybody okay with that?
Certainly.
Okay. So Luke, come on up. We're going to enter this public hearing proposed by CTR. Rate increase. It's 7C on your agenda. Welcome, Luke. Garbage man extraordinaire.
Can you hear me?
Yes, sir.
I'm Luke Pike with manager at CTR. I'm here this morning, I guess it's still morning, to request a rate increase of 8% based on prior year CPI. So we take the full year and then average it out, and that's how we get to the 8%. It's been a interesting last couple of years, actually, with all the inflation, and we're seeing well above 8% increases from most of our vendors, and container pricing and fuel obviously is a big one for us. Labor is a big one for us. So I'm just standing here today to answer any questions you may have. In your packet, there should be a price list that has all the services, and then also for the transfer sites throughout the county. What we do there is we bump up or round down, so we don't deal with change at the rural transfer site, so we balance that out. You do notice on that sheet there's not an increase for yard waste. That's because a couple years ago we we did a bigger increase to cover for compost, and that hasn't happened yet. But that price, we checked with Beaver Hill, which is the transfer station in the next county up in Coos County, and our prices are really similar. So we're just going to maintain. I'm not looking to change that at all. A couple announcements also is our Ridge Creek transfer station, which is 9 miles north of Brookings. We're looking at closing that in May, and our new remodel in Brookings on Carpenterville should be open. We're hoping for a May 1st opening, which should give South County residents a lot closer drive. If someone in Harbor going to the dump, it's basically a 20-mile round trip. This should cut that considerably. So we're looking forward to that. Something we've been working on for many, many years, and it's finally happening.
Is Ridge Creek leased property? Does CTR lease it?
Yeah, we lease it from a family.
Okay. Yeah. Interesting.
Any questions or comments for Luke concerning what's in your packet? Rate adjustment request. This will result in a $2.20 This will result in a $2.24 per month adjustment in the rural areas, and $2.57 in the urban growth boundary.
It's understandable.
Yeah.
Right. We understand all costs have gone up.
I'm just really happy somebody drives all the way out to my house to pick up my garbage.
Yeah.
Every time. I can't even believe it happens.
Right. Now, question. One of the things that a lot of people are facing is the potential that the CPI now in the future could reverse. Will we see that reverse back to the citizens if it does?
Honestly, I don't have that answer right now, but I've never been through that before, so I really don't. I don't really know.
I mean, it's a rarity to see this level of inflation this fast, and so when that does buckle back, there was a potential to have essentially a reverse CPI, and so it will be interesting to see how it's responded to.
Yeah, I mean, I think we're seeing numbers that we've never seen before.
Right.
And one thing, I think some of it's never going to go back. Like fuel, where we used to see $2.50. I mean, I think that's in the past. It's hard to say. I don't want to call it future, but right now we're at $4 a gallon, which 3 or 4 years ago that was unheard of. And now that's kind of the norm. And then summertime, we're up to like mid $6 a gallon. So when your fleet is predominantly diesel and, we burn about 9,000 gallons a month, that increase is a big number. And so those kind of things become the new norm, and that's kind of where I see that kind of that going. But again, that's just a guess.
Yeah.
You better tell the crab fishermen that.
Yeah, it's not good.
The diesel price went way up, and the crab price went way down.
Yeah.
So, gentlemen, I'll entertain a motion to approve this rate increase,
So I'll make a motion to approve the rate increase.
and that's starting at April 1. Got a motion? Do I have a second?
I'll second.
Got a motion and a second. Any further discussion? Hearing none. All in favor say yes.
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 Motion carries 3-0. Thank you, Luke.
Thank you, sir.
Are you going to stick around a little bit? Okay.
Is there a time for that, or?
Ted, we were going to try to meet with Luke, you and I, and Rabia and Luke. Is that, we want to do it a different day?
Let's do it a different day.
Okay,
We got
all
a
right.
lot going on.
We'll get in touch,
I
buddy.
do, so weather's not been great for us today. So.
Yeah, slippery.
Yeah.
Okay, yeah, we will be in touch.
Okay.
All right,
Thanks.
buddy.
Thank you.
Okay, moving on, we've got all 3 public hearings are done. Jay, you're up still, I think, with setting a Board of Commissioners annual priority workshop. You're going to be the workshop commissioner.
I think so, because I like communication. So a couple of things. you know, one strategy, you know, that could be productive in creating a lot of, at least, direction is the potential of having an annual, you know, maybe it's the beginning of the year, whatever it is, an annual board priority and goal workshop to, you know, identify, because everybody on this board has, you know, different desires to see achieved within the county. And a lot of them also have similar, right? And so having the ability to come together on an annual basis to say, hey, these are the goals and priorities that the board feels we can achieve this year. And it gives us, it gives the board a bit of a common ground in terms of a few things. And you know, it should not be more than, you know, 3 to 5, but that's to be discussed, right? It allows people to, you know, have a priority that they'd like to see accomplished, and have some assistance with that, you know, along the way. It gives the public the ability, we can, you know, at the end of the year, just to evaluate our effectiveness on some of those things, whether or not we're getting some of those things done. You know, and so it came in conjunction with, I was looking at the strategic plan.
Yeah.
I think it was developed in 2020. It's the 2020-2025 strategic plan. And in the strategic plan, it states that the board shall review this on an annual basis. So, you know, utilizing that document, which was very well put together, in following the expectations of meeting on an annual basis to look at our strategic plan, and then building, you know, maybe a few of those things are pulled out of the strategic plan that are the goals and the priorities that we want to really see moved forward, so that it's an active document, not a passive document.
Yeah.
So I was hoping that we could entertain the idea of looking at that as an option, to move forward with, and you know, I definitely feel strategically that it's important to do it prior to budget, because if there are goals or priorities that may require budget priority, then those are things that we would need to work into being able to achieve it. Yeah. If it's going to need resources like that, I don't know what those goals or resources those goals or priorities might be, but
we don't know unless we have the meeting, right?
Yeah, and I feel like, you know, it's always good to have those and have them out in public.
Yeah.
And, you know that those are things that we identified as things that we care about.
Gee, we had a question from Dave in the audience.
David Barnes, I just want to make a comment. We're talking about doing a lot of stuff in workshops. I believe the county ordinance, and I know for a fact that right here on the sheet that people fill out, it says that comments are not allowed in workshops.
Well, we might have to.
So that kind of excludes
card.
Unless it says allowed by consensus of the board. But I've been in many workshops where previous boards have said no public comment. So if you want to work things out and work them out with the public, you might want to look at the ordinance and this sheet here and change that if you want public input on things.
Thank you, because I don't think that is the will of this board. So
well, but I do think there's a place for workshops that have no comment when you're, you know, maybe working with a couple of different entities on an outcome,
right?
And you can get bogged down. So having the ability to revoke and have public comment by consensus of the board.
I would ask, if you're going to do that it be specifically put on the agenda that public comment will or will not be allowed during this workshop.
Yeah.
Prior to the agenda going out, so that you don't have people showing up.
That's smart.
That's a good idea.
Yeah.
Thank you.
Thank you. That's a great suggestion. And I agree that.
Yeah,
100%.
I do.
Yeah, because most of the workshops, I'm going to want public comment.
Yeah.
Majority of them.
Well, a lot of them you're going to have public invited. You're going to have specific public stakeholders invited into the discussion.
Yeah, we just incorporate that, just exactly that concept into what we're doing.
Well, you always do better if you're you're not afraid to interact with the public.
Yes.
And it can be hostile, and it can be, and it can be,
But it can be organized.
right, and it's a lot, everybody learns if they communicate, if they talk back and forth.
Yeah, yeah.
So we can add that to the agenda, for sure.
Yeah.
Anything else, Jay? On that?
No,
topic?
that's it.
Okay.
That's it.
Well, Brad, we are at L now, which is 5G. You wanted clarification. First draw documents for the CDBG.
Yeah,
Small
yeah.
business grant?
And I don't know if Summer's still here. She could maybe pop in real quick.
Summer, if you're here out there.
The first kind of question I have, maybe it's more for Ted, is the legal requirement of it. And it's like,
A lot of these things have already been previously
Yeah.
approved. I don't understand why I wasn't really communicated with on this, so I'd be interested to find out why we need to approve them. So, but maybe if we can get Summer in here, that'd be good.
And then the other question
Dave, would you be available to run and get? Okay.
Where?
Thank you, sir.
Where is this?
5G.
Oh,
and then,
Consent
the
agenda.
one he pulled out.
Yeah.
and then there was some, there's like a grievance policy in there too, Ted. Is that different than the county's policy, or is there
Thank
changes?
you, Summer.
I'm just not understanding.
Let's
it.
just ask Summer if she can catch us up.
So I apologize for not understanding it, Summer. I'm just trying to clarify it.
Sure, what's the question?
So and maybe this is it for Ted first, but do we have the legal requirement to adopt it? Because that's what's confusing to me.
Are we talking about the CDBG grant?
Yeah.
First draw documents?
Yeah.
Yeah, we are legally required. We actually have to do that for every CDBG grant that we apply for. It's part of the housing and urban development requirements. We've done it historically. You'll find that the LEP is not in there because there's a 5-year, they're good basically for 5 years. And the only one that is current right now is the LEP. And technically we don't even have to submit for that because we're not to the 5% yet, but we're close.
LEP being?
So it's languages spoken other than English.
Oh, okay.
In the county. And so we're at a threshold, I think, of like 3.6 right now, but that's growing.
Okay.
So, but that's not expired. That was done, I want to say 2 years ago. So that one didn't come before you because we already had that active.
Okay.
And then the ones that you have currently really are just a regurgitation.
We just redo them every time.
Yeah, that we've adopted
That was my
previously. And so, yeah,
It's just housekeeping, kind of?
Yeah.
Okay.
It is. It's a lot of work, and so I do appreciate you all taking your time to ask those questions because that is important.
Okay.
And I apologize for not understanding that, Summer. Also, what can you explain that Section 3 coordinator?
Yeah. So
what does that mean?
So actually, I have the Section 3. It is another deliverable of the first draw. We did not have VPN access on Friday when I submitted everything. So the Section 3 is the same that we have on file. It's got some updated percentages, but basically it's saying, look, if we're going to contract, we're going to offer fair and equitable wage, mitigating discrimination and all of those employment policies we already practice.
Okay. And then the only other thing I had was, let me see. The grievance policy, is that something different? Something, it's all the same?
Yeah.
Okay.
It really is. And actually, I wish I would have had more time to kind of, when I had originally emailed council and HR, like, hey, what do we have on file that's already applicable here? Here's the list of documents I've got to deliver to make sure that we weren't creating a conflict in bringing this to the board. There was nothing from HR that deviated that I found anyways. So, but they're always amendable. And I don't discourage a review of that from either direction. So.
Okay. Those are my questions.
Okay.
That's, again, just
And you had no
trying to
additions or-
understand. No,
Nothing-
no,
okay.
just trying to understand.
Gotcha.
That's all.
Sure.
So this just has to go along with the grant, all these things that we sign off on and
Right, and
the applicant.
it's actually a super great thing because now that we've got those in place, that means that anybody else applying for a CDBG grant in the county,
Has those
that
documents.
groundwork's already done. Yeah.
Very good.
Okay. Anything else?
That'll do it, I think.
So we've moved this into action, so we have to have a
Yeah, just so we have.
separate motion, so.
Yeah.
Oh, okay. I
Yeah.
thought you covered it earlier today.
No, we pulled it out of consent.
No, I pulled it because I didn't
Yeah,
understand.
just to ask
Oh.
these questions.
Sure. Okay, no, thank you for that, actually, because we have to deliver the documents to Business Oregon, but also with the minutes, so that you're asking questions is great. They will like to see that.
Okay. All right, so I'll entertain a motion.
I'll move to approve
Okay.
the first draw documents for the CDBG Small Business Micro Enterprise Grant.
I'll second it.
Okay, we got a motion and a second. All in favor, say yes.
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 Motion carries 3-0. Thank you, Summer.
Thank you so much. I'm leaving scholarship deadline today. So
Okay.
if you need me, email. Otherwise, I'll be working or I'll
Okay.
be remote work if I have to.
Sorry for
Very
making you
good.
come back.
No, you're
Oh, no problem. Yeah, I was still here. Thank you.
perfect. Perfect.
Thanks.
All right, gentlemen, we are at, we haven't missed anything, right? We did all 3 public hearings. We moved one to a workshop. I think we're at Commissioner comments and updates, and Commissioner Trost is first. You don't have to say anything if you don't want to.
Actually, I do have something to report. And it's very, it was from code enforcement. So the code enforcement has been really, really busy lately. They currently have 259 cases open in progress, and they are continuing to work on those daily and getting those case numbers down as things progress. So I just wanted to give that update. They sent this to me, and it's an opportunity to pass that information on to you.
Okay.
That's it.
All right. I'm next. Not a whole lot to communicate. Aquatic Safety, Luke Martinez, who we all just appreciate his willingness to watch over the Curry County from the waters end of the things, is going to be doing a qualifying swim in Mendocino County on the 11th, Saturday the 11th of March, and he's just doing a fantastic job. There's going to be a survival slash EMT class in Port Orford at the end of the month. But I'm thinking it's a NOL class. It's really good for outdoor survival and health. You know, fix you up if you get trip in the woods or whatever. So it's a 20-hour thing, class in Port Orford. There's 30 people going to do that. I'm going to do that. That's all I have. Commissioner
So,
Alcorn.
emergency operations, we've had some inclement weather recently, which has resulted in some folks in the community contacting me about warming centers and the availability of such. And I think it was former Commissioner Boyce that opened up the annex and had some people come in during a previous storm. So there were some questions about that. And I also got some emails about why we're not using the fairgrounds specifically for that. And I don't know if you guys know this or not, but a lot of those buildings are condemned and we can't put people in them. So that's why the fairgrounds are not an option. But what I wanted to report was, in talking with Monica, there is potentially some grants out there for purchasing of some trailers, and maybe even some grants for some generators, that kind of stuff. And those would be used in emergency situations only. And she's exploring that those options for us, and seeing what's available to resolve that problem.
Is that it?
That's it. So
Hey, you're not on the list, so I don't know why you're talking.
I'm talking because my I was contacted by my assistant regarding an issue that when we by taking the TLT issue off and putting that into a workshop form, the only thing that Monica Ward was concerned about, she didn't have a chance to talk about if we took that action. Our short-term rentals ordinance that was passed some months ago, there's a requirement to provide there's a requirement for all the new, as I understand this, all the new participants in that program that are subject to the ordinance to post certain emergency information in their homes, and it's an imposition on them. It's an undue burden in Monica's opinion, and she was going to fund that with the funding she was getting, coming up. So her proposed, she suggested this to me, and I would think that we'd want to think about that, would be to extend the, how'd she put that? She said, it's the way she understands it is that these notices they're the responsibility of, because it would be an undue burden for the people who have the ordinance imposed on them. It would be an undue burden for them to pay for that themselves. So emergency management is tasked with, from her understanding of the short-term rental ordinance, that office is tasked with providing those documents to the people. So they have to get them printed, and it's a cost, which is not in her budget, so she was hoping to get that. That's what she was going to use some of that funding for. So the proposed fix would be to extend the deadline for providing that notification to by
Gotcha.
So if we extended that to, say, I don't know, 60 days past the funding of
This public hearing.
60 days past the public hearing, we could do that.
Yeah. So basically, the Emergency Operations Center is responsible for putting the little pamphlet in every short-term rental.
That's her understanding, yeah.
And that's a cost associated with Monica's operations. And she didn't have the money for it.
Correct.
All right.
Can we pull, is there anywhere we can get, other than waiting for, because it sounds like it needs to be done, whether this public hearing gets adopted or not, you know what I mean?
Yeah,
Does that make
I would
sense?
agree. I would agree with that.
Well, I mean, do we have a?
Well,
do we have an
okay,
amount?
so I don't want to make people any more mad, but there's this would be a thing that goes directly. This documentation is there to protect tourists. Am I correct? That's my understanding of it. Provide tsunami exit information, that warnings to non-residents, so short-term rental users, almost by definition tourists. So I would think that you could reach into TLT funds and get that limit. It's not that big a cost.
Yeah.
But that'd be a direct.
Well,
Then
so I have a question, right? So ready, fire, aim, right? Emergency management would be printing these things out with the expectation that they put them in these short-term rentals. Why can't we build into our short-term rental business license that these things shall be provided inside these short-term rentals? You will provide emergency management page A and page B, and then it's on them to print it out, to post it within the short-term rental, and it's built into an ordinance that has some long-term sustainability, not a pamphlet that might get tossed or not even might get placed, but comes at an extreme cost.
Well, it makes a lot of sense to me, but I didn't write the ordinance.
I think that ordinance has already been written.
But couldn't be amended.
There might be a state mandate of who supplies it.
But if we supply it, we can supply the ability to print it, right? I don't know. I mean, I guess those are questions that I have before we get into
I've talked about this with Monica before, and she would be able to answer that question in more detail. But I know that's her responsibility as far as the cost, and I don't know what the cost is either.
I don't either.
I would have to speculate on that, and I don't want to.
I mean, I guess I just don't think it's too much to ask that you.
So what about? I mean, I still think that the short-term address for this would be to extend the deadline for posting those things until 60 days past the workshop regarding the TLT ordinance. That way we can get those answers, Jay. And I think your point is well taken. Yeah. I mean, I think you want to be careful about ordinances that if that's the case, and I don't know it to be the case, I would have to go read the ordinance myself. But to see if an ordinance produced by one department imposes an imposition on another department, I would want. I don't know how that happened, but maybe we can figure out a way to fix that.
And I mean, this is a novice statement, right?
Sure.
But
Good. No, it's a good question.
Right.
Miranda might have the answer. She came here to have the answer. Hi, Miranda.
I'm Miranda Plagge with Economic Development. So, I mean, it sounds like you guys are, of course, trying to figure out where we can get those funds. I believe Summer's on her way back. She'd like to address it. As far as, what that sort of looks like, just to give you an idea of what we do for our business license, we do stipulate on the license that it also has to be displayed within the home.
On which license?
The business license.
Oh, okay, yeah.
For short-term.
Right. And we sort of amended the license so that it also says that they're registered, so that, people who come to visit in these short-term rentals also feel safe that they've been through the process of licensing, and so that, people know that they're actually doing business. And we've gotten really great feedback. They love putting that up because it does show that, they're being compliant.
It's already required.
Yeah, it's already required.
But that's not the...
No, but I do believe in a situation like this, maybe on that license, we could sort of create, with GovPilot, maybe amending the license so it also has that emergency information.
Amending the business license to include that.
Correct.
That way we wouldn't have to go back in and redo the ordinance. That's a great idea.
Yeah. That would be my suggestion
Okay.
On how to go about that.
If you're going to have short-term rental, you also should have some responsibility to ensure that the people are informed on how to deal with
I think it's a great idea. Yeah.
Yeah, emergency
Okay,
evacuation.
then we'll have to. I mean, we'll have to look at the ordinance. We're going to have to reinterpret it to be if it's Monica's responsibility. But this would be a great way to get it to remove. If it's Monica's responsibility and there's not a funded responsibility, then it shouldn't be her responsibility. So we can get it done another way. That'd be a lot.
Yeah, I don't know what the state mandates are.
I don't know. We'll have to look at it. Let's go with the temporary anyway, just so we can get to it. Answer.
Sure.
Miranda might have answered some of that.
Summer might have
good.
more answers. Did you hear it?
A little bit. So here's what I recommend is that you all have a thorough understanding of what this really encompasses. I don't think it requires an amendment to the ordinance, which we've got some amendments that we want to propose. We had no idea this was coming, so we were a little, caught off guard that there would be yet another amendment. When you're looking at pulling 33% of tourism's budget to fund the development of a pamphlet that we don't know is required or not, is something that you should probably vet before you make that decision. There's also a more sustainable way to
provide that every year when we renew licenses. It's sent electronically, and then it's on the onus of the owner to post that. Why we couldn't have the second document in addition to that?
That's what we just said.
Yeah, it sounds like a good idea.
But let me make something clear. Business licensing, transient lodging tax, and short-term rental are all 3 different programs. This is a requirement of the short-term rental program through the planning department, not economic development and tourism. This is a requirement that they asked for, and so I would assume that they might have some kind of, they might have done some planning and, okay, we're requiring this, what does that look like, and how do we make that happen instead of it getting to this point. So,
Well, I guess my brain says, we require fire alarms, but we don't pay for them. We can require postings in areas where we have repeat guests, which I think just adding that to, it's a page, it's a pamphlet, right? It could be printed out. And I think making sure that people are aware is the number one concern.
I think,
Go ahead.
excuse me, on the short-term rental form, it does ask for those things, and so the owner submits that information with their short-term rental application. There's no reason why the short-term rental program can't transfer that information to a document that they then return to the owner on the annual basis that they renew.
They're getting paid for.
Right. We create brochures and flyers and all kinds of things for other departments all the time. If it were a simple question of, hey, we'd like to mitigate the risk, and this is what we are looking to provide, can we work together to make that happen? We would have said absolutely. But that's not how it was presented through the ARS, nor was it articulated that was the need.
Which I think is why we're pushing this off for a longer discussion, right?
Right. I think we want to push it off for a longer discussion and let them come in with some better, I like that approach.
I think,
but it's not Summer's job to remedy the problem. It's not her department,
No,
And
but
so,
it's also ours to give as much information as we can.
right.
but I will say that there was an additional amendment proposed in that ordinance that washed out the emphasis of the capital improvement funds specific to the event center, and that opened it up where there was concern that emergency management's bringing this proposal without working with those entities that are financially, impacted by this decision, and they're the recipient for capital improvement funds through the ordinance currently, and so when that was removed from the ordinance, I think that's why you saw the event center board and staff here, because that's a vulnerability for them, rightfully so, right? So I think the sooner you bring that to a workshop and have the conversation and be transparent about it, I think you'll probably get more folks on board.
We're going to do it next week.
Yeah, I think it's next Wednesday, right?
Yeah.
So,
plan.
Well, if there's anything that any of us can do to help further that conversation, don't hesitate to let us know.
Okay. Thanks, Summer.
Mm-hmm.
So that was a long commissioner update.
Yeah.
So you want to go into executive session prior to higher orders?
So I think we still need to resolve this.
Okay, yeah, finish up.
well, we have one thing that wasn't resolved that started the meeting.
What?
The prayer.
Oh, let's talk about that.
I think that it's prudent to, if that is important to John, which it seems to be, I think it's worth discussion.
Yeah.
Oh, sorry, Matt. Do it out on purpose. I think we should discuss it, right?
So the history of this is that prayers were being done for 2 years, and 8-10 months ago, I think, is when they got the letter from an organization that advocates against. They advocate for the separation of church and state, and that's, that's a broad topic. You're talking about constitutional issues and many different areas. And there are arguments on both sides of this. The arguments that we heard from that organization were that it was making, they had gotten complaints from some of our constituents who said it made them feel uncomfortable, and that they felt they were being compelled to some degree to participate in a belief system that they do not want to participate in, to be a part of county business. So then I got in here, I responded to them, I said, we're going to try to come up with something, and we reached out to a separate law entity that occupies the other side of the ground, and they came back with conflicting arguments. And the conflicting arguments are that if you decide you want to do it, you can do it. But the way I read it is it does have to be the board deciding to do it. It can't be an individual. So if you want to do it, it's a defensible space. But at the same, it's just a thing that you have to decide where you want to do it and how you want to do it. And my point is that however you guys want to do it, you can defend yourselves to one extent or another. There are arguments on both sides. That's why the issue exists. So, but as long as it's a board decision, then, because right now the board is being threatened, but the actions are being taken by an individual. So that's what the board needs to proceed as a group.
So, and that entity that Ted is talking about was the ACLJ, the American Center for Law and Justice. They are on retainer, right, with the county, Curry County, and they said you can do it. So, gentlemen, I don't in any way want to force this on you, but I've been doing it, so I was compelled to just keep doing it. So, you guys, however you feel. Obviously, you know that I feel like I want to do that.
Sure.
That's my faith, and just a second, Dave.
I don't know. I mean,
it's got to be.
It doesn't bother me at all. I mean, I think we can all use a little hope and prayer once in a while. We all start every meeting with Pledge of Allegiance. So help me God. Right out the gate. I don't know. I mean, it's definitely, we're not mandatory. We're not making it mandatory. But I understand.
It would be an invitation. There was some pushback, and I always want to make it. You can sit or you can leave.
Well, maybe there's a better way to do it.
Maybe it's a moment of silence.
I wanted to, before you do it, I just want to give you the perspective of the people from out in the audience that, as they've explained it to me, they feel like, for example, what have we been talking about in here today? Giving out money to different entities. Well, if you are here on behalf of whatever entity and you're trying to, you're lobbying basically for funding for whatever project you have. Well, if you are compelled, if you feel that you're compelled to participate in a religious activity of a certain type to gain the acceptance of one or more of the board members that are deciding that funding, that can create a situation where it's kind of hostile. And I mean, I understand that I understand where everybody's coming from, but that's the issue that's where the people out here are saying that's an issue. Whether it's a real issue or not, I will say that in the past in private business, I've walked into different private businesses, and I've had people sit down before we start negotiating a contract. I'm working on behalf of one of my clients, and the business owner says, "Ted, have you accepted Jesus Christ as your personal Savior?" I always say, none of your business, because that's outside the realm for me as far as as far as engaging in business negotiations, we're not going to talk about that. But that's, so, anyway, that's the perspective.
So that was a much more legal description of what I was going to say, basically, and maybe there's a better way to do this. So I certainly believe in God, and I support prayer 100%. But I also respect a person's right to choose how they feel in this great country of ours. And I don't like feeling like I'm forcing something on anyone. So maybe we could have the prayer in our office, where our offices are before each meeting.
Yeah.
And we could invite people to join us there, so there's some separation from this room, and we would still be able to pray for those who wanted to.
Yeah.
Would that work?
You could also just dedicate a moment of silence before the meeting for people to acknowledge whatever they feel needs to be acknowledged. You can.
We've done that, yeah.
Say a prayer for yourself.
Would that be acceptable to you?
Yeah. Yep.
Because I think that's legitimate. That's a moment of silence. Look, I mean, we need all the help we can get. So a moment of silence, but when, if we look at if there's I won't use examples that might be repugnant to you, but I'm sure that I could come up with some quasi-religious sects that you might not want to be participating in there, and apparently those people are the ones that are offended or threatened by this. So I think that a moment of silence would be a great way of doing it.
And
Dave?
I would also join you in
Okay.
prayer if you.
Sure.
In the office.
Yeah, and, yep. Dave, did you have something to add?
Yeah, I've been here for the last 2 years worth of meetings when this has been happening. And, while you'd say that people don't have to participate, I've watched as several people walk out of the room when you do it. And that, to me, is like waving a big red flag, like having a big A on your back that, I don't believe in this. I don't want any part of this. And to me, that seems discriminatory. It seems like we're forcing people to either sit and abide by it and just bite their tongue, or if they feel that strongly, to get up and walk out. And like Ted said, when we have people coming in and asking for money or something like that, they're setting themselves up one way or the other. And it just, I understand the level of discomfort that people feel on having to walk out because they don't want to participate in this. And I don't think it's right that members of the public have to walk out of the room because of something that this board is doing like that, and I've seen there's 2 people that do it every time, and there's a couple others who I've seen do it. I've seen up to 4 people walk out of here when the prayer starts, when it's been a busy meeting. So, I would if we're going to be inclusive of everybody, then we need to be inclusive of everybody. So, thank you.
Jay, are you not raising your hand? You're just
Nope.
doing a hand exercise? Okay.
Dealing with my attention.
All right.
issues.
Okay. Well, I think we got a conclusion. So now what are we going to do with executive session? We were going to...
Now we go into executive session.
Okay, all right. So
Can we take a 5-minute break?
We can.
Use
Oh,
the
it's 12 o'clock. So, yeah.
We can take a break, Jay.
You want to take a break for lunch?
Do you want to try to wrap it up and then go to lunch?
It's okay with me.
Take a 5-minute break.
I just need to rest.
JJ, are you okay?
Oh, yeah.
So we're going to take if we're all in agreement, we'll take a 5-minute break, come back and finish up this meeting, and then...
Ted gets food deprived, so.
Well, I think he's got plenty of stored.
Finish up our general meeting? Or our general meeting or the executive session?
Executive session in high order, and then we're done.
Okay.
So it won't take
Any
long.
showing of any weakness. I get it.
5-minute break.
seaside trip off the byway. It's a wonderful way to explore a variety of natural Pacific Coast beauty in a number of settings: beaches, vistas, gardens, and more. Giant sea stacks, a tiny lighthouse, and an old town await you in Bandon. Do you like to golf? This remote area on the Oregon coast has not one, but 3 of the most stunning and challenging golf courses in the world. As you drive south of town, look for brilliant red bogs in the fall. You're passing through the cranberry capital of Oregon. After a trek through forests and farmlands, you'll reach Port Orford. The wild coast has begun. You're in the most westerly city in the continental United States, and you've reached some of the most...
Hey, welcome back. We just got done with the executive session, and we are going to I'm going to entertain a motion to accept the 3 hire orders.
Yeah, I'll make a motion to accept the hire orders.
A, B, and C. Got a second?
Second?
Got a motion and a second. All in favor say yes.
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 Motion carries 3-0. I'll entertain a motion for what we discussed in executive session. Go ahead.
I'll move to assign interim director of operation duties in conjunction with county council duties to Ted Fitzgerald with a compensation adjustment of $3,166 per month for 90 days.
And I'll second that.
Okay, got a motion and a second. No question or comment. All in favor say yes.
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 Motion carries 3-0. This meeting is adjourned. Thank you all for listening and being here and on TV. Thanks. Bye.